Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to call today's public hearing to order. We find ourselves sitting in this Veterans and Military Affairs public hearing in slightly changed global circumstances. So I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the military actions in the Middle East and the loss of American service members' lives. We were not in a situation to make a statement like this at the head of last session, and I found myself thinking about how we would acknowledge and honor those veterans all weekend. In the last few weeks and months since working on this committee, many of us at this table have stood at deployment ceremonies for Connecticut Air National Guard. As members of those units left their families, left the state of Connecticut to defend our interests foreign and abroad. We shook hands with them, we embraced their families, and we felt both the pride and the weight of their responsibility that comes with sending our neighbors into harm's way. As the chair of this committee, I want to be clear. As a committee, we are doing everything within our authority to support our servicemen and women. Whether they're serving here or at home or deployed abroad, we are equally dedicated to standing beside them and their families who carry out their own quiet burden of service and sacrifice. Today, I want to take a moment of silence to honor those who have given their lives in defense of our nation. Their loss is felt deeply by this committee and this state. I want to honor their families, their units, and the communities they called home. I ask that we observe a moment of silence to honor the American service members that have been lost and make a hope and prayer for peace. Thank you, everyone. It's hard to leave from a moment of somber reflection and get on to the work of this committee, but it is the job of this committee to make sure that we're doing everything within our legislative power to enact legislation that supports the benefits that our hard-earned servicemen and women have earned. And today on this public hearing agenda, we have a variety of those bills. So the first speaker we're going to call to speak today is from the State Department of Veterans Affairs, the newly appointed Deputy Commissioner, John Carragher.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. And I would, before I start, say thank you. For many of us in the room, what you just talked about is personal and not abstract. So I thank you very much for that. Good afternoon, Chairs Honig and Foster, Ranking Members Gordon and Anderson, and members of the committee. My name is John Carragher. I am a soldier for life and a proud American veteran. Since November 1st, I've had the privilege to serve as the Deputy Commissioner of Connecticut Veterans Affairs. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today on behalf of Commissioner Ron Welch. Commissioner Welch is currently in D.C. meeting with the National Association of State Directors of Veterans Affairs, the Veterans Affairs Secretary, Secretary Collins, and our congressional delegation. He sends his warmest regards. Commissioner Welch submitted testimony on two bills before you today, House Bill 5413, an act establishing a Veterans Dental Care Access Program, and House Bill 5410, an act providing housing for certain impoverished veterans. I will very briefly summarize his testimony and answer any questions you may have on these bills or any other bill on today's agenda. House Bill 5413 establishes a Veterans Dental Access Care Program. Connecticut Veterans Affairs does not support this legislation. We appreciate the intent of the legislation and recognize that good oral health is an important part of overall health, well-being, and quality of life. This program is not included in the governor's budget, and Connecticut Veterans Affairs does not have the resources in terms of both personnel and expertise to operate this program. Of specific concern is our lack of clinical staff to review and approve treatment plans and the very tight timelines proposed by the legislation. House Bill 5410 provides temporary housing to veterans using prefabricated 500 square foot units to be placed on the current campus of Connecticut Veterans Affairs. As this program is also not included in the governor's budget, we cannot support the legislation. I would, however, call your attention to our current residential program operated in Rocky Hill. The residential program has a current capacity of 141 individual veterans with a current census of 116. On the family housing side, our current capacity is 11 families with 7 families currently in residence. The imminent completion of an expansion project on the campus will bring our capacity to 155 individual veterans and 17 families. Space is available, and we encourage veterans with housing challenges to apply. Although we did not provide written testimony on House Bill 5407 concerning state reimbursement to municipalities for revenue lost for tax exemptions granted to 100% permanently and totally disabled veterans, I would like to call attention to it. By my reading of the language, the text does not appear to accomplish what the statement of purpose is listed on the bill. So I would just ask that we make sure that we take a look at that and make sure that the text of the legislation accomplishes what we want it to accomplish. Connecticut Veterans Affairs looks forward to continuing to collaborate with the committee to bring well-earned services to our Connecticut veterans and their families. Additionally, as with anything else, any task assigned to us, we will execute to the best of our ability as we do everything supporting our veterans. Thank you for your time, and I'm very happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner Carragher. I'm going to start with a question, and then I'll turn to other members of the committee to see if they have any comments on your testimony so far. So my first question is specifically in the Veterans Dental Bill proposal. We worked really hard to align our proposal with the study that you all submitted. Is there a way that we can tweak this bill that's been raised to align with the results of your study in a way that you would change to supporting? And sorry.
Well, no, please go ahead.
And I said, and of course, the legislature acknowledges that the legislative process is a push and pull between the executive branch's proposal and what the legislature then, compromises in a budget. And so understanding that there may be staffing requirements, and we're in a budget adjustment in the biennium, and certainly if there's needs that we might be able to advocate for those as we refer this bill to appropriations if it's so necessary. So is there a way that you can get to yes and that you support?
As I said at the end of my testimony, any task and any mission that we're assigned at DVA that is appropriately sourced and funded with the resources that we need to execute it, we will execute it to the very best of our ability and execute it well, I might add. What I can't do at this point, as you said, the process is a push and pull between the legislative and executive branches. So we, as an agency, support what is currently in the governor's budget, but we will obviously support the laws that the legislature passes and the governor signs.
Thank you very much for your testimony. I'm looking around my colleagues to see if anyone has. I see Rep. Poulos.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'll start with the Commissioner's testimony that references an A rating, an overall grade of A rating compared to other states for dental care in Connecticut. I'm assuming, so let's start with, just for the public awareness, I'm assuming this refers to approximately 156,000 veterans in Connecticut, and that 97% of them have dental care. Is this accurate?
Yes, sir, according to the study that that we referenced, and I will get to it in just one second.
Okay, sure, take your time.
I apologize, Representative Poulos. I'll be right with you. Correct, sir. The study that, or the data was taken from the American Institute for Dental Public Health, which indicates, and I'm sorry, what was your specific question again, sir?
So I'm assuming that the A rating that we have for, in Connecticut for our state, is because, of the 156,000, veterans, 97% of them have dental care. Would you say that's?
I would say that's a true statement, yes, sir.
Okay, great. So what concerns me are the 3% of people that don't have dental care. And I would assume that these are some of our most vulnerable veterans, folks that maybe can't afford premiums, have to make a choice between food and dental care, in housing challenges and so forth. And so I looked at the study with great interest when it talked about accessibility options for this 3%. That would be about under 5,000 veterans that are in this position in Connecticut out of 156,000. And some of the programs and examples of coverage that these people might access were listed. I just have a few questions about those. The Connecticut Oral Health Initiative, that was listed as a place where people might be able to access dental care. Do you know if the current grant from Delta Dental of $25,000 is a one-time grant or a reoccurring grant that's replenished every year?
I believe it is a one-time with an option for a second, and it's also my understanding that it has not been very well executed.
Okay. Are those services from that one-time grant available to people throughout the entire state, or is it geographically?
It was originally limited to, I believe it was Hartford County. It was geographically limited. I believe it was Hartford County, but subsequently, due to low utilization, the grantor or the grantee has expanded that availability. I don't know to what extent they've expanded that availability.
So it's possible if I live in Salisbury, Connecticut, in the upper
Yes, sir.
Northwest corner, that geographically I would not be eligible for this funding.
It's very possible,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Or if the money ran out, then there's no funding for this for these services. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. I was looking with great interest at the Soldiers and Sailors Fund, and I know that's a very robust fund. Can you tell me if that fund is available to veterans, these less than 5,000 people that might need dental care? Is that available for preventative care?
The dental care paid for by soldiers and sailors, two things to remember with that. One, it's limited to wartime veterans. Second, it is for emergent dental care and not routine preventative care.
Okay. So if I served in Iraq and I'm home and I'm a SNAP beneficiary and I need a root canal or I need to just get my teeth cleaned, I wouldn't be eligible for that.
To the best of my knowledge, no, sir.
Okay. I was looking next at the CTMOM. Mission, forgetting the acronym. Give me a moment here. Got it in my notes. Just want to make sure I'm good here. The Connecticut Mission of Mercy Free Dental Care. And I'm thinking maybe, hopefully, this would be a place for those under 5,000 veterans that they might get dental care. Do you know how frequently those clinics are offered to our?
I honestly do not, sir.
Okay. All right. And then there was some in your study that you submitted, some insurance plans that were made available for our veterans from the Veterans Dental Insurance Plans from MetLife and Delta Dental.
Provided through the federal VA, yes, sir.
Yeah, provided through the federal VA. And I'm just wondering if, so the premiums range from like $350 to $734 a year. Is there any support for people who, again, might be means tested as a SNAP beneficiary, assistance to help pay those premiums so that they can access dental coverage?
Not that I am aware of, sir, but in my initial research for that study, I did run some numbers and some numbers of veterans that could be served should we, should the committee choose to supplement payment of the premiums for enrollment in VA DIP, and I'd be happy to provide those. Happy to provide those to you.
Okay. Yeah, and I guess, the military has a long tradition of not leaving people behind. And I think we've done a great job in Connecticut with our, taking care of our vets and providing them benefits. And I just think that we're talking about, a very small percentage of underserved and unserved veterans in this area. And so I'm hopeful that through the legislative process, we can find a way to get to yes on this proposal. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Poulos. Deputy Commissioner, I'm wondering if we've spoken about partnering with the Connecticut Dental Association to help do some of the more kind of clinical related things as they currently have programs set up to help people in need get dental care, and they have a certain amount of funding that they have available for that. And I'm wondering if like a partnership with them would ease the burden enough for the Department of Veterans Affairs to be okay with the proposal here.
So again, sir, I just have to emphasize that we will aggressively execute any program that we are, any mission that we're assigned and resourced to do. We've already, quite honestly, we've already started with this and another bill out of transportation and kind of wargaming how we might do it. So certainly a partnership with an organization that has the ability to help us specifically with clinical, like you said, with those clinical resources that A, we don't have, and B, would be difficult to hire anyways, it would very much be appreciated and would become part of the program.
Thank you, Deputy Commissioner. On the housing bill, I'm wondering, you had mentioned that the slated capacity for on-campus housing is going to go from 141 to 155. Do you know what the time frame for that is?
Sir, right now for that increase on the projects, the renovation projects that we're doing, we are down to punch list items. We expect substantial completion the end of this month and full completion after the weather breaks, because some of the items that we have left are weather dependent, concrete pouring and railings and those kind of things that we can't do until the weather breaks.
Thank you. And I guess not seeing any further. Oops, Rep. Delaney has a question. Rep. Delaney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Deputy Commissioner, Sergeant Major, it's a pleasure to see you. Thank you for your service, your testimony, and the good work you do.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon.
I have a question about the your testimony. I'm seeing testimony from the commissioner on the two bills that you had mentioned, but I'm not seeing your testimony in its entirety. Do you have a single summary of your testimony that you submitted for today? And if not, could you get that before to the committee?
The two the written testimony on each of the two bills that the commissioner provided is the testimony of the agency. The only notes that I have are just my speaking notes and summarizing those, sir.
Roger that. Could you get a summary of the entirety of your testimony to the committee?
Yes, sir. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking for, but I will find out and make sure that you get it.
Affirmative. Thank you.
Thank you, Rep. Delaney. Any further questions from the committee? Representative Anderson.
Thank you. One bill you didn't comment on was 5409, Troops to Trade. And it does task Veterans Affairs with a few things. I wonder if you want to comment on Section 3, Veterans Affairs holding a job fair.
Yep.
How much is of that is already happening with the stand down? How do you think the agency will respond to that requirement?
I'm sorry, did you have something else?
No.
Oh, okay. Look forward to partnering with both the military department, the Department of Labor, Department of Economic and Community Development for the Troops to Jobs program. Very much interested in doing a job fair at our facility in Rocky Hill. I don't think it would be duplicative of what we do with stand down, both at Rocky Hill and at all of our locations, because those are much more focused on delivery of services to the veteran population. We have done a couple of things with job fair type stuff, but I would very much look forward to holding a job fair at Rocky Hill in coordination with those agencies, as well as some of the local providers that are out there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Anderson. Any further questions from the committee? I do not see any, so thank you very much for your testimony, Deputy Commissioner.
Thank you very much, and have a great day.
You too. Next up, we have Kathleen Holt from the State Office of the Healthcare Advocate.
Thank you very much. Senator Honig, Representative Foster, Senator Gordon, Representative Anderson, and distinguished members of the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. For the record, I am Kathleen Holt, Healthcare Advocate for the state of Connecticut. The Office of the Healthcare Advocate is an independent state agency with a consumer-focused mission, assuring that consumers have access to medically necessary healthcare, educating consumers about their rights and responsibilities under their health plans, assisting consumers in resolving disputes with their health insurance carriers, and informing legislators and regulators regarding problems that consumers face accessing care and proposing solutions to those problems. I appreciate the opportunity to comment on House Bill 5415, an act establishing a Veterans Healthcare Ombudsman for the coordination and oversight of state and local resources in navigating federal veterans healthcare benefits. This proposed bill would create one or more positions within the State Office of Government Accountability for administrative purposes only for a Veterans Healthcare Ombudsman to assist veterans who are eligible to receive healthcare through the VA with navigating the VA system and to advocate for increased coordination of resources. The Ombudsman would review and attempt to resolve complaints and obstacles, assist veterans to understand their rights and responsibilities in the VA healthcare system, provide outreach to the veterans community, analyze data obtained, make recommendations to resolve systemic problems and concerns, and monitor changes to laws affecting related programs. The Office of the Healthcare Advocate believes establishment of this position would provide great value for veterans and their caregivers. However, to further strengthen the Ombudsman intent and effectiveness, I would propose to the committee that the position of a Veterans Healthcare Ombudsman be created within the State Office of the Healthcare Advocate instead of the Office of Governmental Accountability for the following reasons. First, the purpose and mission of the proposed Veterans Healthcare Ombudsman mirror the purpose and mission that the Office of the Healthcare Advocate has provided to all residents of Connecticut for the past 25 years. This includes all types of healthcare coverage, including for veterans in Connecticut, healthcare assistance, navigation, advocacy, complaint and appeal resolution, education and outreach, monitoring legal updates, and systemic problem resolution recommendations. Establishing a dedicated position to focus on this important work at OHA, the Office of the Healthcare Advocate, would highlight the unique healthcare challenges veterans encounter. Veterans care is often not limited entirely to the VA system. So the second purpose is that many veterans coordinate care with additional types of health insurance: civilian employer insurance, spousal insurance, TRICARE, TRICARE for Life, Medicare, and Medicaid, allowing the Veterans Healthcare Ombudsman to reside in the Office of the Healthcare Advocate would avail the Ombudsman of direct access to the Office of the Healthcare Advocate's well-rounded health insurance expertise. We have nurses, we have attorneys, paralegals, and consumer information representatives that assist and would assist with the ombudsman position. We also have a fully informed approach to attain optimal coordination of healthcare and related needs for veterans and their caregivers. The third reason is eligibility for the VA system healthcare is limited to service-related criteria: length of service, discharge status, and service-connected disabilities. Veterans who are eligible are assigned to a priority group. Depending on federally determined resources at any given time, eligibility may change by priority group. Coverage at VA facilities typically includes integrated primary care, mental health services, and specialty care. But with the authorization and appropriate advocacy, expanded services may be available and covered in the greater community. The Office of the Healthcare Advocate would be able to assist a veteran's healthcare ombudsman to bridge VA coverage to community coverage. The Office of the Healthcare Advocate has heard from veterans about the obstacles many encounter because they are unable to avail themselves of community services except for emergency treatment. The system did not provide them with the resources to understand that they would face lifetime Medicare penalties if they failed to enroll timely. The penalties are insurmountable, so they only have access to VA system healthcare for non-emergency care. Living, for example, in Willimantic and having to travel to Rocky Hill to get to a VA facility. Veterans have expressed regret, frustration, confusion, and disappointment because they feel let down after their service to this country. While some of these eligibility obstacles are more difficult to overcome, by leveraging the expertise of the Office of the Healthcare Advocate, we feel we can accelerate and elevate the position of the Veterans Healthcare Ombudsman to a stronger and better supported beginning if the position is approved. The Office of the Healthcare Advocate also requests consideration for the position to be expanded to include ombudsman assistance for active and retired military personnel. The available health insurance options, typically TRICARE and TRICARE for Life, that is wrapped around Medicare and sometimes coordinated with VA services, are unique and complicated, and missteps are often encountered. For example, while public Medicare coordinates with TRICARE for Life, private Medicare Advantage plans have no programmatic integration with TRICARE for Life, creating avoidable challenges for military personnel. In our statistics, we have served about 24 TRICARE individuals last year who had primary TRICARE and countless individuals who had TRICARE as secondary coverage. So I thank you very much for your consideration of this testimony on this important topic to develop a valuable and focused resource for veterans in Connecticut. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Holt, for your testimony and for all that you do on behalf of the people of the state of Connecticut. Healthcare is obviously a really important issue, and navigating health insurance companies and claims and all that that you help with is really appreciated. I know a lot of my constituents have reached out to you and been very happy with the service that they've received. It sounds to me like you're doing a lot of work for veterans as it stands. Is that correct?
Well, it's unique. Certainly, in the grand scheme of all of the work we do, it's probably only about 3 or 4% of that work is related to TRICARE for Life, military, VA. So we do have some knowledge, and I think having someone who is completely focused on helping not just with the actual insurance itself, but the coordination of care, which is something that we don't do currently to help individuals. We don't do care management, we do case management. So that would be really a much um, a much larger scope than what we currently do.
Thank you. And in your testimony, you talked about in point 3 that you made, the eligibility for VA healthcare and priority groups. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? It sounds to me like benefits for a particular veteran might, come and go from year to year just based on federal budgeting. Is that correct?
Well, technically that's true. And I think one of the VA is very clear to state that there's no promised services available in the future. So with the priority groups, you have folks, for instance, who are considered to be 100% disabled. They have priority over someone with a lesser disability rating. And so while there hasn't been in the past, and again, the VA is quick to point this out, there hasn't been a need necessarily to activate those priority groups in a way that would um, stop someone from getting their insurance. They do have that ability to do that, which again, I've done a lot of veterans coffees, and the concern that I hear as the healthcare advocate is just the unease that many veterans have, that they are not guaranteed health care, and that's very concerning to them.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony and being here.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Next, we have Elena Trueworthy from the Office of Early Childhood, the interim commissioner.
Great, thank you. And good afternoon, Senator Honig, Representative Foster, Senator Gordon, Representative Anderson, and distinguished members of the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. I am Elena Trueworthy, Interim Commissioner at the Office of Early Childhood, or otherwise known as the OEC. I'm here today to testify in support of House Bill 5414, an act concerning military families and enrollment in the Birth to 3 program. The earliest years of a child's life are vital in shaping their future, impacting health, learning, and overall success. The OEC focuses on supporting children from birth to age 5 and their families. A central part of this work happens through our Birth to 3 program, which supports and partners with families with young children that are developmentally delayed or medically diagnosed with health-related needs or disabilities. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, otherwise known as IDEA, Part C, is known nationally as early intervention, and here in Connecticut, we call it Birth to 3. It's available in every U.S. state, territory, and most overseas military bases. For military families in Connecticut, there can be some added stress with relocation orders to a new state, which may lead to interruptions in early intervention services for their young children. These moves often require families to reestablish support in their new location. And all states have differing eligibility, and there are times when a family may receive services in one state and not the other. This bill will seek to establish a more seamless and efficient transition for military families moving from one state to Connecticut for their children enrolled in Part C early intervention. Specifically, it would require Connecticut's Birth to 3 system to take the necessary steps to transfer any records and prior assessments, as well as the performance of any reassessments from the other state. Additionally, no later than 45 days after the referral, any necessary meetings must be held to develop what is known as an individualized family service plan. In Connecticut, we already require Birth to 3 to obtain these records with parental consent. But by placing this into statute, it really strengthens Connecticut's responsibility to obtain these records in a timely manner and make sure that the military families have a smooth transition for themselves and their children into these services. In closing, want to thank you all and offer our continued partnership and collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. One question for you. You mentioned in your testimony that different states have different eligibility criteria for birth to 3 type services. I'm wondering, like, how does Connecticut stack up? Are we relatively, generous with who gets to get these services? Or are we restrictive? How do we compare to other states?
Yeah, no, that's a really important and wonderful question, and it is different across the states. And so I would actually love to call on Nicole Cassette, the Director of Birth to 3, to provide some more of those specific details about the differing states.
Thank you, Commissioner Trueworthy. So in terms of early intervention, one of the great strengths that the nation has is that states have some autonomy on their eligibility criteria, and but with that comes some differences across states. In terms of Connecticut, we have a narrow eligibility in terms of developmental delay. So children are either 2 standard deviations away from typically developing children in 1 developmental domain or 1.5 standard deviations in 2. However, we also have an automatic eligibility list with many diagnoses on it that would be qualifying children as automatically eligible for our system. So that is a little bit about our eligibility. We're certainly I can share the link to our diagnosed conditions list with you all if that would be helpful and some more information.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'd be interested in seeing that. Thank you. Commissioner, you had mentioned that birth to 3 is already required to do what we're planning on putting in legislation. Is that correct? Is that just part of your policies?
It is correct, yes. Part of following federal rules and regulations in regards to how we support families into and out of the Birth to 3 system.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the committee? Representative Anderson.
It's just one quick question. Absent this bill going forward, would it change anything? Would this bill change anything to your policy? Just want to be sure if that's what I'm hearing. Thank you.
Thank you. So it is a requirement or what we need to do. What we appreciate about this bill is that it's really heightening the awareness and the intentionality to support military families. And so it's putting an additional perspective on this work. And what we can then, ensure is that because of this potential statute that we would be able to pay close attention and ensure that we are meeting the requirements always, but especially with our military families.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Anderson. Any further questions? I do not see any, so thank you very much for your testimony, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Next, we have Nicole Cassette, the Birth to Three Director. Well, Nicole answered a side question. Nicole, are you still there? I guess Nicole is no longer with us. Next, we have Representative Tim Ackert.
It seems like a long time since I've seen you all.
Indeed.
Good afternoon. Dear Senator Honig, Senator Lesser, Senator Gordon, Representative Foster, Representative Delaney, Representative Anderson, and distinguished members of the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. My name is Tim Ackert, and I represent the 8th District, which includes Bolton, Columbia, Coventry, Lebanon, and Tolland. Thank you for the opportunity to submit testimony on the following bill on today's public hearing agenda. By the way, I love your public hearing agenda. You are doing the job that veterans can truly appreciate, so thank you to this committee and the heavy lift that you do for our veterans. I'm here to speak on two bills. First is raised House Bill 5407, an act concerning reimbursement to municipalities. Raised Bill 5407 seeks to create an administrative mechanism for municipalities to apply for reimbursement by our state government for lost property tax revenue from homes and vehicles. This state mandate affords veterans to have a 100% disability rating from the Federal Department of Veterans Affairs to apply at their local town hall to seek approval for a waiver for paying property taxes on their home or vehicle. Our municipalities should be made whole, given this is a state mandate that does not have an impact on our local government, that does have an impact on our local government as they craft their budgets to provide services to their residents. I looked at this as like pilot, except for veterans. So we do payment in lieu of taxes for state-owned and other properties, and then we reimburse that loss to our communities. This is probably the second largest unfunded mandate, and listen, as a veteran, I appreciate that, and for those that are totally and permanently disabled to 100%, yes, they deserve something, right? I do believe that. But part of that is when we voted for this, and speaking with the good ranking member, when we voted for this should honestly be the state paying that town back for the lost revenue. When I found out one of my small towns only had 2, at the time that this bill went in, it went to 12. And 12 for a small community was over $2 million in grand list lost. $2 million in grand list lost for their homes and or autos. And in a small community, that tax base rolls to rolls to others paying property tax. So I believe that what we should pony up the dollars here in the state. Granted, we all pay state taxes, but when we looked at the impact that it has on the communities, when many of those individuals apply for this, and all of a sudden the town says, okay, where are we getting this revenue from? And we know our towns struggle already. So if there's a way that I believe that the town can apply to the states and get reimbursement, that would be an area that I would truly support. And also the other one is obviously the Troops to Trades bill. One of the things that as a veteran myself and others in this room, sometimes when you get out of the service, you lose structure. The service provides you structure. It provides you that, consistency that you're used to. And when you get out, you may lose that structure and your consistency, and you lose your way, and sometimes it causes a catastrophic event. And I think that this bill also could help offset the individuals that we lose by giving them that structure back and getting into a good paying job and structure that get that training. So I thank you for raising that bill as also, and I'm open to any questions.
Thank you very much, Representative Ackert. I agree with you on the property tax exemptions, reimbursing the towns. Anything I think we can do to get more money to municipalities to ease the property tax burden on folks would be very welcome and important. You have in your career hired many folks to do electrical work. Is that correct? Could you tell us about veterans that you've hired and how that's
Yes,
worked out?
a matter of fact, I had a loss one young man, I spent about a year training, and he said, I'm going to be a diesel mechanic. As you mentioned, I'm electrical. He said, I'm going to be a diesel mechanic in the Marines. I'm going, wait a minute. I just was training you to be an electrician. No, I'm going into Marines. The interesting thing happened, I got a Marine leaving and coming back to the States and said, I'd like to get a job. I'm like, this is perfect. I'm losing one to the Marines and then getting a Marine back. So yes, it was a perfect fit. And I got to tell you, the difference between my other employees, good morning, sir. I get that. And I get that structure. I get that discipline. I'm like, I really like having it. So I think that's and it is a case where when I get an opportunity that if somebody's got the training, that's one of the things that I mentioned. I was able to take my career, my MOS, my military occupation specialty, and apply it to my complete 4 years apprenticeship in the state of Connecticut. This is going back to 1985, and was able to go sit for the test, which gave me the opportunity to get the license that I now have. So hiring that, and I mentioned that earlier in our press conference, the value that a veteran brings to a company is special, from their training.
Thank you very much. Are there any further questions? Representative Anderson.
Representative Ackert, thank you for testifying to these two bills. I think we agree on the property tax assessment. I believe up until 2017 there was reimbursement for existing. Now it's optional. You represent 5 towns?
5, yep.
So I had one town recently say, what did you do to us? New Hartford, their grand list is this year less than it was in actual dollars than 3 years ago. And you adjust for inflation, it's even worse. So we are all very well intended. I know we spoke on the floor that it should be reimbursed, and now it's up to the taxpayers. But I don't know if you want to comment. You commented on one town and the impact on any of the other grand lists, if you'd like.
Yes, each of those, each town has had a comment in a manner of, how do we, one specifically, and he was a 30-year Navy officer that is now the first selectman for one of my towns, and he said, listen, I get it, Tim. I get it. As a veteran that probably could apply to my 100% disability from being beat up so much in a submarine. But he said, you got to make sure you got to take ownership of this. In my local town of Coventry, it was very similar. You start out with thinking how much the impact is going to be, and then when individuals learn about it, there's actually, if you've noticed, there's commercials out there now that actually will help you get to that 100% disability for veterans. And I sat there and I go, someone's taking advantage of this. And so now we're starting to see that, and they're charged for that, but think about the payback for that veteran if they actually apply for, they actually get to that 100%. Right? So I think we tightened that up a little bit. This committee tightened that up a little bit, I believe, in making sure, you are at exactly that, the term is very specific, and you cleaned that up in this committee, and I thank you for that work you did on that. But I think that overall, the mandate on our community is stressful to them when they're starting to put their budgets together. So if there's anything this committee can do, and other committees, I'm sure it's going to move along, but given the opportunity, I think it's going to help our communities and our taxpayers, our property taxpayers in our communities.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Rep. Anderson. Rep. Gajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To kind of good to see you, Representative Ackert, as always. To kind of piggyback on the good ranking members question, I also represent 2 communities that have seen a lot of property tax loss. And I was just wondering if you knew the exact amounts for the municipalities of how much property tax revenue they had lost because of this.
It's a moving target right now, Representative. As you may know,
Yeah.
you're in the epicenter down there.
Yeah.
You are literally in that. Yeah.
I got 500,000 in one community loss of property tax revenue, and I got 700,000 in the other.
Right.
So
And I know that I'm originally from Norwich, and I heard Norwich was in 1 point something million in lost tax revenue. In Norwich was. The towns that I have, they gave me the grand list numbers without knowing the mill rates at that time. I don't have the specific number, but be happy to. I'm sure that we can get a whole lot of report on every town.
Yeah.
That would probably be helpful. I'm sure it's out there already. But again, it's moving each year as more people get on that list. And matter of fact, and I brought this up on the House floor when we first passed this bill. And I asked if this is specifically those living in Connecticut now and or were, joined from Connecticut. And they said, no, it's for any veteran that wants to come to Connecticut. Matter of fact, the next representative is going to speak to a situation that she's helping with. But we serve the town of Tallinn, and one veteran moved back to Connecticut because of this, and taken the opportunity to use this benefit for themselves to lessen his property tax. And we think of others moving away to go to other states. We have people moving here that have this status. So it's actually, like I said, Representative, thank you for your work on troops to trades, by the way. But also, I think it's a moving target. It's going to grow each year rather than be lessened. So it's something we need to think about. So
Yeah,
thank
you're
you
right.
for that question.
Yeah, you're right, because with rising costs and the property tax being the main source of revenue for municipalities, it is something that that is going to be a continued moving target. So I thank you for your help on all the bills that we've worked on today, and we're continuing to work on together. And I look forward to working with you to get these across the finish line.
Thank you. Thank you for all the good work that you do.
Thank you, Rep. Gajewski. And yeah, I'd just like comment that it's unfortunate that when the bill was originally passed for the 100% permanent and total disability exemption, that some bad information was floating around about how much it was going to cost the towns. I think it was estimated to cost about $5 million around the entire state, and that number is probably more like 25, 30 million in reality. So most unfortunate there. Any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, Representative Acker.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And next up, we have Representative Nuccio.
Good afternoon, chairs, ranking members, and members of the Veterans Committee. I am here to specifically speak about SB 378, but I wanted to kind of continue the conversation that Representative Ackert was just having, and in recognition of the amount of vets who are utilizing this credit. I have not seen a list of the total value of it, but I think the way that we say things is very important, and the words that we use is very important. None of this is a tax loss to the towns, because the way that it works, it lowers the grand list. It just means that it gets socialized against the other residents of the town. So there is an impact that the other residents will feel because of this tax credit. And I do think at the state level, I'm ranking member of appropriations, I would love to know the number, because I do think the state of Connecticut should be looking at how we can supplement this as a payment for the towns. But our vets are not, our permanent and totally disabled vets are not, they're not costing the towns money. It is being reallocated, as all taxes are. They're socialized. Now, when we say we're giving a tax break to seniors, or we say, we're giving a tax break to another population, crumbling foundations, right? I have that massively in my area, right? I have huge hit to my grand list for homes that have crumbling foundations. The town is not losing that tax revenue. They are spreading it out over the rest of the taxpayers. So while your other residents do feel it, I sometimes feel like the assessors come forward like this is a massive loss to revenue for them that I don't necessarily think is accurate. Now, whether or not we want to fund that at the state level, I think is a very apt conversation that we should be having, and I would love to see what the actual impact is, because as you had mentioned, Senator Honig, when it first came forward, it was considered that, it was only going to be a small portion of people that were going to be getting this. And now we know that there are a lot more permanent and totally disabled vets in our state than we originally thought. And I guess that says a couple of different things. One, that we didn't know about this population. And two, these are people who, in my humble opinion, have earned this. They have earned this tax credit as far as I'm concerned. They served our country, and now they are living with a permanent and total disability for the rest of their lives. And if the one thing I feel like we can do back for them is to make it so they can afford to stay in their homes through a property tax credit, I don't find that egregious. I think we need to find a way to make this work, whether it's through our funding mechanisms here at the state or through, other processes. I think this is something that it's a very noble goal. And that kind of gets me to my testimony for 378. I believe in the intent. I believe when we say this is what we're intending to do and this is what we hope it's going to do. And I take value in that. When we're on the floor and we're debating things and we're talking about the intent of legislation, you know, I take us at our word for that. And that brings me to a constituent of mine who is the last on your list to testify today, Mr. Len Bradshaw. And he is the resident that Representative Ackert was talking about. Born and raised in Connecticut, lived in Connecticut, did his time in Vietnam. Didn't know it at the time, but had some really bad things happen to him. Got a job, moved to California, out there, doing his work out there, lived there for decades. Him and his husband lived there happily. But California is probably the one state in the country that's more expensive than Connecticut. And the cost of accommodations out there, their housing was exorbitant. So when they were looking at moving back to trying to find some place to go from an affordability perspective, they came across this law, which, you know, Connecticut likes to talk about how we're the first in kind for many things and how we lead the pack with all of these great initiatives. I think at this one here, we definitely did. I think we took a step here to recognize those war heroes and give them this tax break. They've came across this and secured a house in September, signed all the paperwork and all that, didn't actually get everything done until the beginning of November. But because they didn't own the home on October 1st, they now cannot get the tax exemption until 2027. Because they applied last year in 2025, didn't own the house on October 1st, they can apply again on October 1st, 2026, and then they will see the first tax break, because you pay in July and January, in 2027. I don't think that was the intent of what we brought forward. I don't think the intent was that we were going to tie it to this. And I understand the 10-1 date. I served in the town council for 6 years. I understand how the town budgets get put together. I understand you know, the tax basis, the October 1st evaluations and everything else. But this one stipulation makes it so they will not be able to actually realize any sort of tax benefit for almost 2 years, a year and a half after actually owning the home. So the legislation that I brought forward to you guys is to just say, if somebody moves to a new town, or if they move to the state of Connecticut, right, this person literally upended their lives and moved cross-country from California to Connecticut. I don't know a whole lot of people who are doing that these days, but moved to Connecticut specifically for this tax break so that they would be able to have affordable housing. Give them the ability from 60 days of owning the property to apply. Don't hold it to that October 1st date, and then prorate it going forward. So they have the same opportunity to actually see the tax savings that our other vets are doing. I think that was what we intended. You know, I think we intended to give this tax break to these people who are very worthy of it. And I think because of the actual date and the logistics in there, we're making it harder to actually realize this. So I'm hoping that through consideration of the legislation that I brought forward, the language that I brought forward, you will consider adding language that would say from 60 days of when the person actually owns the home, they can also then apply for the credit, because how can you apply for something that you didn't know you had or you didn't own the house on that one date? So that is my hope, and I am open to any questions that you may have for me.
Thank you, Representative Nuccio. Yeah, you know, through this whole process, I learned a whole bunch of stuff about property tax and valuation dates and all that kind of stuff. I had no idea that the October 1st valuation doesn't get paid until July. There's a 9-month delay. So, you know, I think when this legislation was originally took up, and I wasn't around when it was, but I just don't think anyone actually considered, oh, what if somebody moves from one town to another? But I appreciate you speaking out on behalf of your constituent and bringing this issue to our attention. Are there any questions from the committee? Rep Anderson.
Thank you, Rep. Nuccio, for your testimony. And it makes sense to allow the 60 days and then prorate it. And I appreciate all your comments on taxation and budgeting, and we have high hopes we can find the money to reimburse this. I guess we might, or I'm not sure, and maybe LCO can tell me, or the chair. Do we have a municipal option that already exists that would accomplish this now? I don't know if anybody knows that.
I'm sorry if I may. I can tell you when we went to the town specifically, I went with Mr. Bradshaw to the town to request this, and they were told by their lawyers that they do not have the ability, that there is no ability for them to allow him to do it after the October 1st date. And there is also, as far as they've said, no ability for them to waive his taxes, to say, you know, like, we're going to give you a compassionate exemption. That is what the town is telling us, that per Connecticut statute currently, there is nothing to help him.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Anderson. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Representative Nuccio.
Thank you. I hope you guys have
Safe
a safe
trip-
Yeah, I was
safe
going to
trip
say,
home.
it's getting kind of nasty out there, so.
Next up, we have Representative O'Day. Is Representative O'Day here?
Yes, good afternoon. Sorry, I'm online. I had to leave. I apologize, but I am safely pulled over to testify here at a rest stop on House Bill 5410. So I just want to start off by saying thank you very much, dear co-chairs Honig and Foster, and ranking members Gordon and Anderson, and distinguished members of the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee. As you know, I'm Tom O'Day, and I am testifying on, as I said, 5410. I want to thank the good chair, House Chair, for reminding me that this bill was coming up. I had put in a bill last year and the year before, I believe, or 2 years ago, on a similar ability to provide housing for our veterans. Many don't know that there are 174 veterans in Connecticut who are homeless. And so this bill is an effort to try and provide them with housing. And out of that 174 that are homeless, 22 are not in shelters, unsheltered. At least this is as of January 2024. You probably have better numbers on this committee. 152 as of January 2024 were in shelters. And that's just not acceptable. And so in reaching out to the Homes for Our Troops, who provides housing to nonprofit, Tunnel to Towers, and Veterans of Community Project. The Veterans of Community Project, they put in housing developments of small, tiny homes for veterans, homeless veterans. They have these kind of facilities in or communities in Arizona, Missouri, Colorado, Wisconsin, and South Dakota. They don't have any in Connecticut. And this bill 5410 provides housing in Rocky Hill potentially. And the kind of, now in this, based on line 8, it says not less than 500 square feet for this portable housing or prefab housing, if you will. My idea was more along the lines of a studio that you could get for $25,000, $30,000. That's a prefab studio. And if that were the case, you know, the cost of this would be less than $4 million. Now, it sounds like a lot of money, but if you could provide housing for our homeless vets for less than $4 million, as far as I'm concerned, it's a no-brainer. And if you partner with nonprofits, I think we can bring that down further, and we can get this done. So happy to answer any questions. I submitted testimony. I'm sorry I'm not there in person, but thank you so much for all you do for our veterans. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you, Representative O'Day. Any questions on the Representative Anderson?
Representative O'Day, thank you for your testimony and your bill. Are your thoughts that this would be temporary, like 1 or 2 years, or a long-term solution for the homeless veterans?
So ideally, it could be either. The hope is that it would be temporary, but at the end of the day, so this is a committee bill, so it's a little different than what. So you're going to see my testimony is a little different. The bill is a little different based on my testimony than what was actually came out of committee here. I think what's coming out of committee is the idea is it's at Rocky Hill and it would be more temporary. my idea would be it could be either, because it could be anywhere in the state, not just at Rocky Hill. So to answer your question, either, but right now I think 5410 is more directed to temporary in Rocky Hill.
Thank you, Rep. O'Day. I know you showed me the literature on these housing last year, and then I recently got to tour the housing at Rocky Hill, which the Veterans Administration had done an outstanding job of renovating. I'm guessing the only problem is these are very old buildings and hard to heat. So I'm guessing the type of housing you conceive of would be fairly energy efficient. Is that your understanding?
Yes, very energy efficient, and very reasonably priced, and well done. If you look at Boxable, for example, just Google it. They've got studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, and the pricing listed is between 50 and 100. But I think if we partner with nonprofits and with Boxable, we can get that for a lot less.
Thank you, Rep. O'Day. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Rep. Anderson. Any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you, Representative O'Day.
Thank you, everybody. Drive safe.
You too. Next up, we have Chris Poulos Sr. from the town of Southington Veterans Committee. Mr. Poulos, are you here?
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hold on. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I don't know if I'm not sure if I'm coming through on your video, but my Senator Honig, Rep. Foster, members of the committee, thank you for inviting me today to testify in favor of Raise Bill 5413. My name is Chris Poulos Sr. I'm the older model that came without a bow tie. I'm a resident of Southington, where I serve on our town's Veterans Committee. And I'm a retired Army veteran who entered active duty in 1967. And when I retired, I was fortunate enough to receive full health benefits to include dental health. That's great because the premiums for that dental health coverage that I have to pay amount to about $1,200 a year before any deductibles and copays. We had a saying when I was back on active duty, and this is a repetition of one of the comments my son made earlier in today's hearing, but that's kitchen table, the effect of a kitchen table conversation. But we had a saying back in the 60s that that applies or should apply today, in that in the American Armed Forces, we never, ever leave our fallen comrades behind. I'm speaking to you today to keep my promise to my fellow brothers and sisters in arms. After learning about a free dental care program here in Florida, where I spend my winters, and which I had a conversation with General Welch about last fall at the stand down, which he indicated that he was more than familiar with it, and he had a recent conversation with his Florida counterpart on the subject, and was very supportive of the idea at that time. I then approached my Southington Veterans Committee to explore how we could pursue something similar for our Connecticut vets. The committee authorized me to form an exploratory group, and the results are before you today in the proposed bill 5413. Our research uncovered the following, which you've probably heard already. There are approximately 157,000 veterans in Connecticut. That group is highly ranked in terms of overall health care and receives an A rating. What I'm here to talk to you about today are the 5,000 or the 3% that are un or underserved for dental health care. These are the fallen comrades that we spoke about earlier when I was on active duty, not to leave them behind. Incidentally, I understand that he's gone, but I would address this to Sergeant Major Carragher. I served with Sergeant Major Carragher's father, and he would not let me get away with ignoring this particular issue. He was a strong advocate for supporting both our active duty and our retired military people. With a lot of research and hard committee work, our Southington group reached out to dental professionals, practitioners, and prepared a proposal that thoroughly vetted, means tested, and qualified eligible candidates for our proposed free dental health care. This compares quite well, if not better, than the services provided in several of the other states that we were able to research their programs. I'm speaking to you this afternoon not to ask you for charity, but to ask you to compensate Connecticut veterans for their honorable service. I'm urging you today that the next time you tell a vet, thank you for your service, we can put our money where our mouth is. You've all been provided a copy of the proposed bill and hopefully had an opportunity to review it. And if there are any unanswered questions that you may have, I'll attempt to answer them now.
Thank you, Mr. Poulos. Thank you for coming in and testifying, but also thank you for all the work that you've done on behalf of veterans and securing dental care for them, especially for those who are the most vulnerable. We certainly really appreciate all that work here on the committee. Representative Poulos.
I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for your service and your example.
You're welcome.
Are there any further questions on the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Poulos.
Yes, sir.
Next, we have Sandra Ferreira Molina from COHI.
Yes.
Policy and Advocacy Director.
Yes, good afternoon, co-chairs Senator Honig and Representative Foster, ranking members Senator Gordon and Representative Anderson, and distinguished members of the Veterans Military Affairs Committee. The Connecticut Oral Health Initiative strongly supports the intent of House Bill 5413 to ensure that Connecticut veterans have access to comprehensive dental oral health care. Oral health is not optional. It is a fundamental to overall health, employability, dignity, and quality of life. Untreated dental disease contributes to chronic illness, pain, infection, and avoidable emergency department utilizations. Ensuring access to dental care for those who have served our country is not only sound public health policy, it is a moral obligation. For 25 years, COHI has served as the state's leading voice for oral health access for all. We are not a direct service provider. We are a statewide policy and advocacy organization dedicated to ensuring access for every Connecticut resident. We achieve this massive mission through a very lean team of high impact of just 2 full-time staff and 3 part-time contractors. Our role is to drive the systemic changes that make direct services possible, recognizing the unmet need among veterans and others. Due to the need that we saw, COHI applied for and received a $25,000 Delta Dental Foundation grant to increase access to oral health services to veterans. What became a pilot initiative for Greater Hartford region has since expanded statewide. Through partnership with UConn School of Dental Medicine and Tunxus Community College, we have facilitated access to care for veterans who otherwise would have gone without services. However, we are clear-eyed about the scope of this effort. It is not a systemic solution. It is a temporary intervention, a starting point in response to a significant and well-documented gap. To date, 28 veterans have accessed services through this limited funding. Their experiences confirm what we already know. While the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs provides strong medical coverage, comprehensive dental benefits are not available to most veterans. The dental programs that do exist often contain strict eligibility requirements, limitations, or one-time treatments that leave veterans financially responsible for ongoing or future care. This creates instability, interrupted treatment, and continued unmet needs. COHI supports HB 5413 because it acknowledges this gap and seeks to address. However, we also recognize the fiscal concern outlined by Commissioner Welch. We have been in communication with the Commissioner and stand ready to collaborate in any way that strengthens the feasibility and sustainability of this program. That said, policy without funding is not policy, it is an aspiration. As we have testified before this legislature, we cannot continue to expand mandates without appropriating resources necessary to implement them. A program without dedicated funding to staffing, clinical oversight, and treatment coverage cannot function effectively. Therefore, COHI respectfully urges this committee to work closely with Appropriations Committee to ensure that HB 5413 is fully funded and structured for long-term sustainability. Our veterans deserve more than symbolic support. They deserve comprehensive, reliable access to dental care that supports their health and dignity. Thank you for your leadership and your unwavering commitment to Connecticut veterans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Appreciate you testifying here before us. Can you describe what COHI did to administer the grant that you got? Like, how much work was that for you guys?
So it was a grant application because of the need that we saw, because of all the veterans that we actually saw during the Mission of Mercy event that occurred in New Britain last year. We had over 70 veterans that were walking through those doors in need of dental care. And they were going there to be able to receive free dental care. And so due to that, our response was to apply for the grant, and COHI received the $25,000. Again, we're not a direct service provider, so that's why we partnered with these two, with UConn and Tunxus, to make sure that those veterans that do apply are able to have access to care.
Thank you for that answer. Representative Poulos.
Hi, thank you for your testimony. Of that $25,000, that grant, do you have data on how many veterans that the $25,000 served, and how long approximately, based on the requests for dental service, that $25,000 lasted?
So we're still in the grant period. The grant doesn't end until, I believe, July of 2026. But please don't quote me. I will get the exact number. The money is still there. Like I said, we have currently 28 veterans that are in the process of either being vetted to receive services or have received services, of which I do not currently have the financials. Obviously, it's dependent upon every veteran's whatever procedures or treatments that they need to receive, but I can certainly get you that information.
Follow-up question. Do you anticipate the grant being fully spent by July 1st of 2026?
Absolutely. We're doing everything in our power, reaching out to as many people as possible, and using our community oral health champions that are currently in 5 regions of the state to get the word out. Yes.
And lastly, is there any level of means testing that applicants for services need to meet?
Yes, there are, and that we have a development manager who oversees that process. So yes.
Can you share what rubric or what parameters you use to means test?
I currently don't have it in front of me, but I can certainly provide it to the committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Again, this is a Band-Aid. This isn't a solution.
Thank you, Rep. Poulos. Any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
And next up, we have Kathleen Garrity, the Executive Director of the Connecticut State Dental Association.
Good afternoon, Senator Honig, Representative Foster, ranking members, vice chairs, and distinguished members of this committee. As mentioned, my name is Kathleen Garrity. I am the Executive Director of the Connecticut State Dental Association, representing our state's licensed dentists, our teams, and most importantly, our patients. CSDA is in strong support of 5413, and we were honored to participate with committee leaders and the DVA to develop this program. This bill addresses a very real and well-documented gap for many Connecticut veterans who do not qualify for comprehensive dental benefits through the federal government. The result is a coverage gap of veterans who served honorably, who are not fully covered by the VA, and who cannot afford private care. The estimated 4,600 veterans who are not insured or who are underinsured or uninsured, they include our neighbors, our family members, and they are living with untreated infections, pain, and functional impairment. 5413 offers a practical solution. Rather than building a new state dental system, it leverages Connecticut's existing private dental delivery network. According to the American Dental Association, Connecticut consistently ranks among the top states for dental workforce capacity and access. We have the providers, we have geographic distribution. Connecticut dentists are well trained to address the unique needs of this community, including the mental health conditions common amongst veterans. The infrastructure for compassionate care, community-based care already exists, and we stand ready to provide care to these veterans. We respectfully disagree with the concerns that this program would require the DVA to operate beyond its expertise. Indeed, we look forward to collaborating with them. The beauty of this program, in part, would be that clinical decisions remain with licensed dentists, not the agency. Treatment plan approvals can be structured so the agency is responsible for vetting the eligibility and benefits. The CSDA stands ready to, with full transparency, the DVA, handle provider coordination, maintain clinical standards guidance, utilize review frameworks, and a treatment plan review system to ensure that the department is not burdened with functions outside its mission. We also believe fiscal predictability can be maintained. The $3,500 annual cap provides budget structure, a defined eligibility threshold targets assistance, and a public-private model avoids capital infrastructure costs. I would note, however, as written, Medicaid-eligible veterans are not included in this program, which is unfortunate. On a separate note, our charitable arm, the Connecticut State Dental Foundation, has already been in touch with us. We've been talking to them directly about this program, and we have funds available through that foundation when a patient cannot afford care, regardless of whether they're a veteran or not. Certainly, those funds can be utilized when a veteran's immediate treatment plan exceeds $3,500 in the calendar year. Oral health is not cosmetic. It determines whether a veteran can eat, drink, sleep, speak clearly, or attend a job interview with confidence. Untreated dental disease affects systematic health, employability, and hampers social interactions, which are the heart of our humanity. Charity events that provide care sporadically is not a healthcare system. Veterans deserve continuity of care and an ongoing dental home for preventative, restorative, and emergency care. Our veterans fulfilled their commitment to this country. This legislation is our opportunity to fulfill ours, not with temporary volunteerism, but with a sustainable, structured pathway to care grounded in dignity, access, and professional standards. The CSDA respectfully urges favorable consideration of this bill with thoughtful implementation refinements to ensure administrative clarity and clinical integrity. My written testimony goes into more detail, but thank you for your time today, your commitment to our veterans. Anything we can do to help you make this happen, we stand ready to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. I really appreciate you and the Connecticut Dental Association for their collaboration and consideration of this legislative proposal. I have shared the story with Kathleen, but I think it's helpful for other folks to notice that a couple of years ago, I was at a veterans forum, and a few local veterans shared their stories of their challenges getting dental health, and that a member of the Connecticut Dental Association, who I recently had the privilege of meeting through Kathleen, was able to provide this veteran with care. They had poor fitting dentures and crowns, and for anyone who knows anything about health and well-being, if you don't have well-fitting dentures, your health rapidly declines if you can't eat the food that is available to you. And so in particularly elderly folks, poor fitting dentures are a real indicator of health decline that is easily preventable with access to adequate dental care. And so a veteran in the community donated his time and services to this veteran, but sporadic charitable services is not enough for us to fully care for the scope and breadth of the needs that we know that veterans have. And so, Kathleen, you sort of shared that you have within your organization a charitable arm that's doing a lot of this work. Can you sort of talk about how significant the need and burden is on that charitable arm, and why you need more additional support and coordination with the state? You know, if that program is enough, we'd love to know. But if it's not enough, why do you need more resources from the legislature to advocate upon for veterans dental access?
Thank you for the question, Representative. So the Connecticut State Dental Foundation is established to provide additional funding for a couple of groups, one of which are our students and residents who maybe need additional funding for their education, because that's important to us, but also for anyone in the community who is under or uninsured and has a significant oral health treatment plan that they can't afford. So that application process has been on the website. And it's pretty transparent. It goes through a system that we verify, much as we're proposing here today, that a person is eligible, that they are strapped in terms of their income, and they have to ask for help. And then we look at the treatment plan that's being proposed by their providing clinician to make sure that it's an appropriate plan. They're not looking for a fully cosmetic upgrade, for instance, but this is to restore functionality to their oral cavity. And that process is done with dignity, with respect, and with transparency to the patient and the provider. So that's kind of the system we modeled in this program. As much as I would like to say that we have unlimited resources, that's not true. In the best worst case scenario of this bill, if we have 4,600 veterans that apply and use a full $3,500 in their allocated year for treatment, that would be about $16 million, and that's much more than we can afford. So for that reason, we were looking to the state to lean in and provide resources through the appropriations process to fund this program. But I think what I would like to underscore here is that, you know, we stand ready to provide the clinical care that we can and to oversee, make sure that the treatments that the veterans are getting is appropriate and consistent with their continued, you know, overall health, as you've pointed out, and to bring them to a point where they feel confident and a healthy smile.
Thank you very much. Are there questions from other members of the committee? I really appreciate your collaboration and your support of this legislation, and we will certainly be in touch as we move forward to see if you have further recommendations as we hone the draft further. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker today is Thomas Bonanno.
I would like to thank the members of this committee, the chair and the ranking member for this opportunity to speak. My name is Thomas Bonanno, and I reside in Norwich. As a disabled Vietnam veteran with a VA disability rating of 100% permanent in total, I am exempt from paying property taxes as a result of Public Act 25-2, for which my wife and I are most grateful. I am here to testify in support of HB 5407, an act concerning state reimbursement to municipalities for revenue lost to the property tax exemption for veterans with a 100% permanent and total disability rating. I would also like to encourage this committee to amend this bill to reflect what was contained in the 2025 session's SB 381, an act concerning funding to reimburse municipalities for loss caused by veteran property tax exemptions. as introduced by the ranking member of this committee. I would like to qualify my request, and I ask for your forbearance as this is somewhat convoluted. 1 year ago, Mr. John DeSantis, whom unfortunately has passed away as a result of the adverse effects of his Agent Orange exposure in Vietnam, and I testified before this very committee in support of SB 381, SB 1091, an act which proposed to increase the veteran property tax exemption from $1,500 to $20,000, and SB 1276, an act to rectify the altering of the intended language of the 2024 sessions, HB 5491, which became Public Act 2446. After Mr. DeSantis and I concluded our respective testimonies and exited the room, we were approached in the common area of the building by members of this committee whom informed us that the prospects of the acts we were supporting becoming law were slim, as the chair of the Appropriations Committee, also a veteran and a member of the Veterans Affairs Committee, intended to let SB 381 die in committee. This is precisely what took place. This shameful betrayal of the 135 plus, as I understood, Mr. Poulos, or it's actually 157. I stand corrected. This shameful betrayal of the 157,000 plus veterans of this great state created a destructive domino effect on pending veterans legislation. The General Assembly was placed in a quote-unquote catch-22 situation regarding SB 1091. Disabled veterans with a permanent total disability rating of 70, 80, and 90% unemployable, but paid a full 100% disability compensation, were eliminated from the property tax exemption as set forth in Public Act 2446. They were clawed back. That being stated, I would like to request that this committee amend HB 5407 to include all veteran property tax relief. I further request that this committee raise a bill for a minimum $50,000 tax exemption for all veterans. The state surplus will easily accommodate these exemptions, relieving the already overburdened property taxpayers and the respective communities. The time has come to afford our veterans the respect that is more than well-deserved. Virtue signaling and empty promises need to cease. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your impassioned testimony. We appreciate you being here today. I want to make sure you're aware that this last year the legislature set forth action on all of the existing property tax exemptions, evaluations, and comparison across the states. We, the current leadership of the committee is not all overlapping who was here before, but we are eager to find ways that we can streamline and make more efficient and more beneficial and impactful the work that was started by our predecessors on this committee. And we want to make sure that we're doing that in a thoughtful and planful way. So ahead of the next legislative session, there will be recommendations that are set forth in collaboration with the Connecticut Department of Veterans Affairs and from UConn's Office of Policy, our Department of Policy, who's helping administer this. And we have a member of this committee who's working very closely in helping make sure that that happens. The Tax Assessors Association, the Conference of Municipalities, they're all part of that study to make recommendations moving forward. So we hear you. I understand your frustration. We're working really hard to make sure that we're giving the most robust and valuable benefits possible to veterans. And I just want you to know that this is going to be part of a multi-year effort, and we're trying to be careful and judicious so that we don't do what you're perceiving as a clawback. We are uninterested in making taking a step or an action that will result in us having to make a fix or a change that'll have a negative impact on the experience of veterans. And so we're trying to move forward in a planful and careful way. But you have pointed out something that we as the committee leadership acknowledge, and we want to be very careful about moving forward. So I want you to know you've been heard. And so thank you for testifying and sharing that. Are there other members of the committee that have questions? Seeing none. Thank you, sir, very much for your time today.
Thank you.
The next person on the list is Kevin Knapp.
I just want to second what he said. I was here last year. I had a much worse experience. I was harassed by the Capitol Police and the Windsor Locks Police after I left here, before I spoke and after I spoke. I've been arrested numerous times for speaking. I've been to court 12 times for advocating and public input. And the fact that Connecticut thinks what's happening in Minnesota and LA is reasonable and acceptable, but me speaking at public input is not, is just absolutely unacceptable. So my name is Kevin Knapp. I'm a combat veteran, a 100 permanently and totally disabled veteran who served in the Sunni Triangle in 2004 as a combat turret gunner. I am here today not for myself, but for approximately 1,200 permanently and totally disabled veterans across Connecticut who live on fixed incomes while managing life-altering conditions earned through military service. We answered the call of this country during times of war, like we are today. We did not hesitate. We did not negotiate the risk. We signed our names knowingly we could come home changed forever, physically, mentally, financially, if at all. Bill 24-46 was presented as meaningful relief. It was promoted as support for permanently and totally disabled veterans, but in practice, many of us are still facing property taxation burdens that contradict the spirit and in some cases the plain language that was passed. Veterans on fixed incomes are being told their land, garages, pools, and outbuildings are taxable in ways that effectively dilute or deny the relief that was promised. This is not what veterans were led to believe when this bill was passed and celebrated. At the same time, Connecticut has reported multi-billion surplus reserves in recent fiscal years. The state has funded major infrastructure projects, economic development incentives, and other large-scale initiatives. I am not here to argue against investments in Connecticut's future. I am here to ask why permanently and totally disabled veterans are not first in line for the relief when the state is operating in surplus. This is not about party politics. Veterans come from every political background. When we served under commanders-in-chief for both parties. We do not get to choose the political climate when we deploy. Service members do not serve a party, we serve the Constitution. If Connecticut can accumulate significant reserve funds, it can invest in large public projects, then it can ensure that permanently and totally disabled veterans are not nickel and dimed in municipal level. I have filed formal complaints and I'm pursuing legal remedies against the Connecticut General Assembly and members that sit in front of me today. I am asking the committee to clarify the implementation of Bill 24-46 statewide that was bipartisan, passed unanimously, 246-0. We need to ensure municipalities cannot erode promised exemptions through technical interpretations that put permanently and totally disabled veterans at the front of physical policy discussions, not at the margins. We carried out our duty when called. I am asking you to carry out yours. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to exposing the bad actors in Connecticut that have chosen to attack me and my rights in hopes of censoring me to shield the fact that Connecticut has chosen money over its veterans. I stand before you like I did last year and offer my help for free for any veterans. I will never stop advocating for veterans, and we should bless our troops. I also want to point out I applied for the Connecticut veteran manager position that was open to the public, and I was told by Connecticut that I do not qualify because I'm not a current Connecticut state employee. But in the job posting, it said it was open to the public. So I just want to make it of record I have been discriminated against by police, judges, William Tong, every single person in the state chain of command. I have emails, records, that's why you guys changed this whole committee, was because of me. I was not inducted into the Veterans Hall of Fame, nor was my brother. My brother was part of this entire act, who is also 100% permanently and totally disabled veteran, who had a brain tumor. He's also schizoaffective now. He gave up everything like I did to defend this country. I was willing to die for everybody in this room before I knew you. It is a shameful thing that Connecticut can put money over anything while illegals, criminals, and all these other things are at the forefront. Politics should never override the sacrifice veterans have given to this country. Any questions, I'm open.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. I'm looking to members of the committee. Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony.
See you guys in court.
Our next speaker on the agenda is Ray Ryan from Electric Boat.
Good afternoon. Tough act to follow there. Senator Honegan, Representative Foster, Senator Gordon, Representative Anderson, and the members of the Committee on Veteran and Military Affairs, thank you for having me today. My name's Raymond Ryan, and I'm the Veteran Military Outreach Partner for General Dynamics Electric Boat, and I'm here today to support House Bill 5409, an act concerning troops to trades initiatives. Electric Boat has a time-honored standard of excellence in design, construction, and life cycle support of submarines for the U.S. Navy. EB is one of the largest employers in Connecticut with over 127 years of experience in submarine shipbuilding. We currently employ 25,000 people across our Connecticut and Rhode Island locations, with over 16,000 employees located right in southeastern Connecticut. Electric Boat is committed to the recruitment, the outreach, and personal development focused on hiring veterans. Our company recognizes the valuable knowledge, the skill sets that veteran employees contribute to submarine shipbuilding process and acknowledge their importance to the company's overall success. We are currently undergoing a transformation period. We're aiming to hire 8,000 people this year. More than 2/3 of the new hires will be in trades positions. Our goal is to hire 1,000 veterans. I really appreciate the committee raising the issue and hopeful that Troops to Trades bill can help us reach our significant hiring goals. This bill helps provide service and resource for active duty transitioning service members. It also stands up a program for transitioning National Guard and Reserve that doesn't currently exist. It helps to connect employers with information to the National Guard and Reserve. I want to thank you again for the opportunity to testify. I look forward to working with you and this committee on this important issue. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Ryan. We appreciate you being here today. I see Rep. Gajewski ready to ask a question.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ryan. I know the answers to these questions, but I want to get it on the record. You work at Electric Boat. How many employees do you guys estimate to hire this year?
Over 8,000.
Over 8,000 employees. And can you break that down for me from your Connecticut location and your Rhode Island location?
I would say 60-40 in Connecticut and Rhode Island.
Okay. And what is your goal to hire? Do you guys have a goal to hire a certain number of veterans? How much is that?
Yeah, so right now we currently hire approximately 400 to 500 a year. This year our initiative is 1,000.
Okay. And could you expand on the reasoning of why you guys like to hire veterans and how the transition from military to the trades field is something that EB seeks?
Yeah, so I mean the veteran, workforce, the veteran applicant comes with a skill set that a lot of times civilians just don't have, right? Working in a diverse group, working under pressure, all those skill sets, paying attention to detail, right? When you're building nuclear-powered submarines, you want to make sure paying attention to detail is number one. So the veteran just brings that valuable asset to the workforce. That's why we seek to hire veterans and improve our numbers in veteran hiring.
And also, is it easier for security clearances to hire veterans because I know that what's the difference in wait time between somebody who's non-veteran and somebody who's veteran based on their security clearance from their military experience?
That is a great question. Every veteran, every person that serves the military exits the military with a security clearance. So when you get that transitioning service member, you're saving money for the company, you're saving time for the veteran. You can get them through the door and a start date much faster.
Do you have an estimate of when that start date?
So the average time for an employee that accepts a position, so that means you went through the hiring process and you've gotten an offer and you accept it, it's an average of 90 days. I would say if someone that has a security clearance, you're going to cut that number in half.
All right. Well, I just wanted to thank you for coming up today and providing input to the committee and what you're doing and how we can help as a committee on HB 549. And I thank you for today, and it was a pleasure meeting you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray. Any other questions from members of the committee? I see Rep. DiCaprio online. Ray, would you mind waiting for one more minute? Rep. DiCaprio has his hands raised online. Go ahead, Rep. DiCaprio.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for coming in today, testifying. 8,000 employees and 60-40, 60-40, that would be about almost 5,000 in Connecticut. Is that correct?
That'd be correct.
And I just wanted to know what do you feel is one of the major challenges with hiring that many people, in that particular area?
I would just say just the volume in that number, right? That's a large number. The company has made it a priority to hire veterans. I'm the veteran liaison for the company. We have saturated southeastern Connecticut. I travel throughout the country to different bases, different Fleet Family Reserve centers to try and get that talent. We're actually hiring another person right now to help me on the military staffing team. So hiring another person just to reach that number, getting outside the box, getting outside our local area, going to those submarine bases and actively recruiting, I think is the way that we're gonna hit that goal.
And the I guess what I was sort of thinking was the housing situation. I mean, if you're getting people from out of the area, my understanding is it's a real that's one of the real challenges of people relocating to the area. Is that you're finding that?
That can be a challenge. I think that's a challenge everywhere.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for that, and all the best with that recruitment effort. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Rep. DiCaprio. I appreciate your questioning. Ray, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sorry, we almost let you go and then called you back. The next speaker for today is Don Schubert from the Connecticut Construction Industries Association. Thank you, Don.
Good afternoon, Representative Foster, distinguished members of the committee. My name's Don Schubert. I'm the president of the Connecticut Construction Industry Association. And I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to testify in favor of Race Bill 5904, an act concerning troops to the trades. I also want to thank the committee for convening the recent informational hearing, for carefully listening to the testimony, and for developing practical solutions to strengthen the pathway from military service to civilian careers. At the informational hearing, we shared our experience organizing and hosting a employment fair for veterans, active duty service members, and their families. And one issue became very clear, that there's a significant communication and engagement gap between service members and civilian employers. And we tried to identify the gap. We figured it could be one or more of many different things. But one thing we did realize is oftentimes it's not about willingness, it's about navigation, clarity, connection, and this is exactly why Bill 5409 is very important. The bill provides a coordinated framework to bridge the gap. These are very, very practical steps in the bill. They focus on coordination, information sharing, direct engagement, structural elements necessary to create real pathways from military service to civilian construction careers. We all know that Connecticut's home to many, many highly trained, disciplined, mission-oriented service members and veterans whose skills align very easily with the construction industry. And in my mind, these troops to trades initiatives are not simply workforce policy. They represent a commitment to ensuring that military experience translates into meaningful civilian opportunity. On behalf of CCIA and the employers we represent, I respectfully urge the committee to support the bill. And again, thank you for your leadership, for your commitment to Connecticut service members and their veterans. We look forward to working with both the state and other partners on these initiatives, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for your testimony, and it really was truly our hope that the informational forum would set us up for a successful public hearing. I'm glad to hear that you think we did. Are there other members of the committee that have questions? I think you might have covered all the topics so well during the forum. We're in good shape. Thank you so much for your testimony and support. We appreciate you, Don.
Again, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
The next speaker is Allison Weir from Connecticut Veterans Legal Center.
Good afternoon, Senator Honig, Representative Foster, Senator Gordon, Representative Anderson, members of the committee. My name is Allison Weir. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Veterans Legal Center and a 20-year Air Force veteran. I've submitted testimony on a number of bills, so I'm just really going to focus my remarks here today on 3 in particular, but I'm happy to answer any questions about anything I've submitted up to this point. First of all, I really enthusiastically support SB 378, which would make permanent and part of the state law the extension of property tax to those veterans who've been determined to be totally disabled due to their individual unemployability. These veterans have service-connected disabilities of at least 70% and have been adjudicated by the VA to be functionally totally disabled, so much so that they receive disability benefits equivalent to those received by veterans with a 100% service-connected rating. Although the property tax exemption, like the VA disability compensation, is not needs-based, this particular group of veterans is among the most likely to be in need of the economic benefit of this exemption, and I wholeheartedly endorse extending the exemption to property tax exemption to this group. Similarly, I support HB 5407. The population of disabled veterans is not evenly distributed through the state, and some towns with the largest number of veterans who are with the largest number of veterans are the ones most reliant on property tax or have exceptionally small tax bases. According to a 2023 study by the OLR, several of the smallest towns, including Sprague, Montville, Norfolk, Bosra, Canterbury, and Canaan, have the highest percentage of 100% disabled town veterans. Among our clients, the highest percentage of our clients reside in cities like Hartford and New Haven, which are where much of the town real estate is owned by tax-exempt institutions like colleges, hospitals, and government buildings. Without state reimbursement, I fear that the property tax exemption could exacerbate current inequalities among towns and leave towns where the veterans live with fewer resources for their residents, including veterans. Finally, I would like to bring your attention to HB 5416. I have submitted written testimony to the Appropriations Committee that I'm going to sort of summarize quickly. Up until January, veterans were exempt from the work requirements for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. According to the Center for Budget and Policy Priority, 9,000 veterans in Connecticut receive SNAP. DSS has determined that 300 veterans who would have been exempt from the work requirements will be impacted by the change. But based on our data and my reading of the statute, I believe the number will be far higher. We currently have 364 veterans who receive SNAP. Of those, 145 are over 65 years old, leaving 219 veterans, or about 60% of our clients, not eligible for the over 65-year-old exemption. Of those, 72 have a VA service-connected disability, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're medically certified or as physically or mentally unfit for employment. As I read the exemption from work requirement, a veteran would have to have a service-connected rating of 100% or be adjudicated to be TDIU, medically unqualified. I mean, to be medically certified as unfit for employment.
Do you mind wrapping up your testimony shortly?
Basically, if you take our data and extrapolate, we think that about 55% of the veterans who have up to this point been exempt from the work requirements would be impacted by the changes under the Big Beautiful Bill Act. And we really urge the committee and the legislature to create a state program to help those folks. Thank you very much for the opportunity to testify. I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much. I'm wondering, for the folks, the Veterans Committee, I don't know how much we overlap with the Human Services Committee and how often people hear about the requirements for enrollment in SNAP and the types of benefits that folks are receiving. But for the members of the committee who might not be as intimately involved, can you talk about the average benefit that someone getting SNAP who's a veteran might be getting, and how much of a difference it can make in their household's ability to purchase healthy foods and sustain themselves?
Yeah, so SNAP benefits are real. I mean, they're entirely needs based and they're based on the size of the family. But typically, they're not more than a couple $100 at most, and that's a very large family. Most are probably receiving probably about $50 a month, which may not seem like a lot, but every little bit helps for this particular community. And the other problem with the work requirements is not only would people have to sort of certify to DSS that they are working or trying to find work, even if they're able to meet those requirements, and that will also takes time from actually working and finding work, because you have to go and report to DSS. But the new bill allows you to folks who are able-bodied without dependents only 3 months, even if they are meeting the work requirements, to collect SNAP. So even if you're trying to get even if you're meeting those requirements, you only have 3 months on SNAP, which means that if you're barely food secure before, you're going to be truly food insecure after that period expires.
Thank you very much for testifying. I think one of the things that we've talked about as a committee is sort of making sure that we're there for the veterans when they need us most. And the fact of the matter is that there's a very large group of veterans who are aging, who this exemption could have made a very big difference in their ability to find work. We also know statistically these are the folks who are going to have to participate in more interviews than their younger counterparts to find successful employment. And so while they're struggling to make ends meet and struggling to put healthy food on the table, and in all likelihood statistically also struggling to manage diabetes or hypertension or other illnesses related to their time in service to their country, we're also going to tell them that even though it's an incredible uphill battle to find employment as a senior, that they also have to do that while struggling to make ends meet, and juggling the not insignificant paperwork burden of trying to prove eligibility for these programs. And so this was like one less paperwork burden that was required for this one group of veterans. And so I agree with you. I hope as the state we find the opportunity to offset this deficit. And I think that you are not wrong in knowing that there are a great number of veterans who were not calculated as likely to be included in that number. It's likely an underestimate. Our aging veterans in particular, I think a lot of folks are struggling to make ends meet, and this is one safety net program that we know that people often are participating in when they're eligible, but the paperwork burden kicks people off more often than it holds them in. So thank you for testifying. Are there other members of the committee that have questions?
Thank you for the opportunity.
We look forward to reading your written testimony and making sure that we are catching all your feedback. Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Gomez from the Bilingual Veterans Outreach Center of Massachusetts. And I believe he's remote. I'm looking for Mr. Gomez. I don't see Mr. Gomez online. I promise to try and come back. The next speaker is likely Dr. Bashar Betros from the Family Dental Practice of Southington. Dr. Betros, hopefully I'm giving you your correct honorific. I am not seeing Dr. Betros online. If you join us later, we'll come back to you. I haven't given Mr. Gomez very much time to join us, so I'm going to go ahead to Jennifer Jennings from the Connecticut Healing and Cooling Contractors Association. She's the executive director.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
We can. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me on this semi-snowy day and canceled school for the kids and trying to juggle a few screens because you guys are very busy up there with lots of hearings going on. My name is Jen Jennings. I'm the Executive Director of the Connecticut Heating and Cooling Contractors Association. I'm here today to testify in support of HB 5409, an act concerning troops to trades initiatives. CHCC represents about 85% of the HVAC industry in Connecticut. And not only am I the executive director of the trade association, but I am the very proud sister of a United States Marine who in 2011, upon his discharge from the military and moved back to Connecticut, was seeking to get hired by a police department. At that time in 2011, I had approached Representative Ritter and Hartford City Council to discuss opportunities and ways to really access the GI Bill and capitalize on training where we've already paid at the federal level to train from tactical to teamwork, diverse workforces, learning under pressure, a lot of mechanically inclined, to how to capitalize on all the training that we've already invested into our military veterans and put a class together where the GI Bill would pay the City of Hartford Police Academy to put this group of individuals through, and then the basic housing allowance would be able to pay the recruits. And it would save really the city millions, and we would be providing a lot of great opportunities to put these vets into great entry into the workforce. Unfortunately, nothing materialized on that. And then in 2013, this legislature created the Military Occupational Specialty Task Force under Special Act 13-5 to study how military training could substitute for state occupational and trade licensing. In January of 2014, there was a very robust report with about, I think it was 218 pages, really that gave different direction and insight from the mechanical and electrical and technical trades, as well as police, fire, and other professions. But ultimately, what came out of the 2014 session, if I recall correctly, was credits to be given to college. Real life experience, which is amazing, to be able to apply their military experience to a college degree. But the real question here is, has anything materially changed for veterans navigating licensure in Connecticut? The skilled trades are seeing a massive shortage. I think we know that collectively with a lot of the different initiatives and efforts at the Capitol here to be able to backfill a lot of these retirees that are coming out. So although college credit is not an occupational equivalency, a veteran electrician, HVAC technician, a mechanic needs a clearly defined pathway that recognizes their military training toward the 720 hours of classroom instruction and the 8,000 OJT hours, the on-the-job training. The association would love to see some type of defined benefit, something that's not just subjective or equivalency training, something that actually says you worked on generators possibly, or your MOS directly correlates to this, and therefore you meet these modules. And no different than, I guess, let's look at high schools and AP classes or ECE classes. We have a defined credit and it transfers directly into the goal of college. Let's look at that for our vets. They're coming back with certain MOS. Let's have a defined benefit that really allows the Department of Labor and Consumer Protection in our own state regulations to apply these credits so that the vets have access to a checked box that they have met this and an opportunity to sit for our state skilled license exams. So essentially, I'm really looking that I love this legislation and I want us to take it a step further. We've already studied it. We've already talked about it and discussed it. How do we take this and roll it out and make sure that it's a pathway? Connecticut does an amazing job in the Department of Labor. The union trades have helmets to hard hats. There's groups all over the place, but they're all in individual silos. My contractors do an amazing job of trying to hire veterans, but again, once they come back, they've got a lot to navigate as they are already trying to integrate back into civilian life. So anything that the legislature could do that really puts a defined benefit out there, makes some actual check boxes as they progress through and seek out a skilled trades license, the association absolutely supports and backs and appreciate all the efforts of what you guys are trying to do.
Thank you very much. While you were talking, I wanted to sort of make sure that as a committee, we were reviewing the reports that you're referencing. I see the report from 2016 on the licensure requirements. And, you know, there's a liaison from the Department of Defense that gives legislative priorities to this committee every year. And some of them are on licensure reciprocity. And at the time, it's been my understanding that because New England is part of a variety of licensure compacts, that we've captured a lot of the careers and specialties that were outlined in this report. And I know that they were really college specific careers that were mostly outlined in this report: nursing, dental school, teachers. There's a variety of other ones, but most of them required a very specific higher education degree. And our hope was that this would be a similar effort specifically for the trades. And so what you're telling me is that you'd like to see us do more than just create the pipeline, the conduit that's connecting folks to these forces, but actually give them a leg up as they start those programs. Are you familiar with any examples of states that are doing just that we could look at or consider?
No, to answer directly, no, I'm not aware of any other states that are doing that. A lot of states don't have the same robust licensing that Connecticut has. We've got a very well-established apprenticeship program and not seeking to dilute the efforts of the training at all. But to somehow take a look and capitalize on the fact that they're coming back. They're not just they're not entry-level employees. These veterans are coming back with real skills. They truly are technical in nature, and the skilled trades, electrical, mechanical, are wonderful professions, easily accessing 6-digit entrepreneurial opportunities. And it would be a great transition for them. So I'm not aware of any states that do it, but something that says all these amazing little silos that we have all over the place, if we can just somehow have an overarching, you discharge, you're moving to Connecticut, or you're coming home to Connecticut and you're looking to apply for an apprenticeship, that you maybe have already met there's 20 different modules, if you will, that make up the 720 hours. Maybe you've already checked your blueprint reading or your OSHA safety or some of these modules. Like, how do we look at it and give concrete, definitive, not so much a subjective, let's review your equivalency, box, checking experience, so they can move on to application and toward licensure. A leg up is.
Thank you. I really appreciate your testimony and your suggestions. I think we are looking for the specific policy lever to head us in that correct direction. But I think what you're saying is aligned with things that we're working towards. And so we're open to further suggestions, but we have taken, I hear what you're saying, and I think it's just about getting to the right policy lever to effectuate that change. But you're right. Our goal was that this bill did break down the silos. I hope we're doing just that. But, so making the next leg up would be helpful. Any other members of the committee with questions? Seeing none, thank you so much for your time. Our next speaker is Nicholas Procco from Resource Lighting and Energy. I'm not seeing Nicholas with us. I'm going to give another call back to Mr. Gomez, Dr. Batros. Alrighty. The next speaker is Leonard Bradshaw. Mr. Bradshaw, you're joining us online. Would you please proceed?
Can you hear me?
We can now. Thank you.
Great, thanks. First of all, thank you very much for listening to my testimony. And I'm actually part of Representative Nuccio and Eckert regarding the property tax exemption for those of us who are totally 100% service-connected, permanently and totally disabled veterans who wish to take advantage of the property tax exemption. One of the things that I noted previously, well, first of all, let me tell you that yes, I came here from California, but I'm a Connecticut rather, native who enlisted in the military in 1971. I returned in 1975. I took advantage of my GI Bill and furthered my education. And I eventually in 1990 was transferred to California as part of my job. Well, I recently, because of the expense of living in Southern California, decided to come back to Connecticut. So I'm a returning native of Connecticut. And so I applied for the property tax exemption after purchasing a home here and was told that the exemption would not take effect until July of 2027, which is a full 20 months after having taking up residence here in Connecticut. And I thought, that's a long period of time. And I know previously someone stated that it was a 9-month waiting period, which I would certainly accept. But the town that I'm residing in now, the home that I purchased in Tolland, Connecticut, has told me that even though I took up residence in November, which was past the September period, it's now going to take 20 months, which will be July of 2027, before I can take advantage of this. And honestly, that seems to be against the legislation here. I don't quite understand why it will take that many years. I'm going to be 74 years old in 2027. My husband will be 77 years old in 2027. And it's almost as though they're biding time until, we might not make it to be that old. So, I'd like to see legislation changed such that, there's at least a 60-day period of time after September 30th, which is supposedly the cutoff date, that would allow us to, as we did, we went into contract to purchase a home in September of 2025. They would at least grant us that 60-year period for us to close escrow and actually be able to take advantage of this benefit in 2026.
Do you mind wrapping up your testimony shortly, sir?
If you insist, but I'm just wondering, can't we change the legislation to allow us to take advantage of this while we're still alive? And that's it. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thank you, Mr. Bradshaw. I want to just point out, we really appreciate your testimony, and I think we have discussed as the leadership of this committee on multiple occasions that when you pick implementation dates and there are rolling applications or annual applications, that depending on when you become eligible for something and when the window for application is open, that there are people who fall right into the line and it works well. And you seemed to be that the dates just lined up in a way that was very disadvantageous to you. And we're sincerely sorry for how that has affected you. It's not our intention to pick an implementation date that benefits some and harms others. And so we're sorry for the frustration. Your leadership, your legislators have been advocating very strongly on behalf of your
pizza.
Senator Austin. Would you mind muting your line? Thank you. Your legislative committee has been really active in their advocacy on behalf of your issues. And we're hopeful to think of a way that we might help, but it's challenging because when you pick implementation dates, there are people who will fall before and after that cutoff point. So it's not really a delay as much as it is when you applied, the deadline was missed. And so that created this delay and for your participation. And we are sorry for that. It must be very frustrating. And it's our hope that we can find a way to help. So any other members of the committee have questions for Mr. Bradshaw?
Are you cutting me off?
I don't think so, sir. Do you have more to say?
Well, it's just that, it was previously testified that it was a 9-month delay. But I want to correct that it's not a 9-month delay. it's 20 months. And for someone who's in our 70s, 20 months is a long time. And so that's where I think it should be corrected in that 9 months that someone previously testified to is not correct. It's wrong. It's 20 months in our case. And in many others veterans cases, it's 20 months or more. So I just want that on the record that this legislation allows for municipalities to extend the period of qualification to their benefit. That's all I want to say.
Thank you for your testimony today. We appreciate you, sir, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Any other members of the committee? Seeing none. The next speaker on the list.
Well, thank you for just pushing it along.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Is Katie Zarziska, the Executive Director of the Connecticut National Guards Association of Connecticut. Thank you for waiting to join us, ma'am.
Jesus, that was shitty.
Sir, you may want to mute your line. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Good afternoon, Senator Honig, Representative Foster, Ranking Members Anderson and Gordon, and distinguished members of this committee. On behalf of the National Guard Association of Connecticut, thank you for your continued leadership and commitment to the men and women who serve our state and nation. As mentioned before, we currently do have soldiers deployed into the CENTCOM area of responsibility, and we are making all our efforts to support their families while they're going through what they're going through. That started this weekend and has possibly no end in sight. We appreciate the thoughtful attention being given to strengthening workforce pathways through the Troops to Trade initiative. NAGAC supports the goal of this legislation, creating clear, practical bridges between military service and Connecticut's skilled trades benefits our guardsmen, our veterans, and the industries that are valid to our state's economic strength. As we reviewed the current language, we would respectfully offer several recommendations that we believe will strengthen implementation and ensure long-term sustainability. First, alignment of administrative leadership will be critical. Workforce development is a specialized function that already resides within agencies such as Department of Labor, the Office of Workforce Strategy, and our state's economic and manufacturing partners. Positioning those agencies as the administrative leads while the military department serves as a key outreach partner and referral source will ensure this initiative is built on existing workforce infrastructure and industry relationships. Second, we encourage broadening existing legislation to include not only transitioning service members and veterans, but also currently serving members of the Connecticut National Guard. Many Guardsmen are balancing military service with civilian careers. Expanding access reflects the unique structure of the National Guard and increases the long-term impact of the program. Third, we believe the legislation can go further in creating tangible pathways into the trades. Specifically, we would welcome provisions that develop and publish military occupational specialties to state licensure crosswalks, provide appropriate credit towards licensure for military training and experience, and consider license fee waivers for eligible participants. These structural components move the conversation beyond awareness and into measurable outcomes. When military training translates clearly into clearly into civilian credentials, both service members and employers benefit. We also support the bill's intent to consolidate workforce resources and improve visibility. The Department of Labor's Career Paths publication is a strong foundation. A military-specific version developed collaboratively with workforce agencies, unions, and industry could serve as a practical roadmap for Guardsmen, veterans, and even Connecticut youth considering service. We have the framework for this effort from the 2013 task force that examined the use of MOSs for state licensing requirements. Finally, as this initiative moves forward, we would encourage ongoing reporting and evaluation so that the legislature can track participation, credentialing outcomes, and workforce placement results. Clear metrics will help ensure the program evolves effectively over time. In closing, NAGAC supports the purpose of this legislation with thoughtful alignment of agency roles, inclusion of currently serving guardsmen, and incorporation of direct licensure pathways. Troops to trades can become a sustainable and replicable model for workforce integration in Connecticut. Thank you for your time, your leadership, and your continued support of those who serve. I welcome any questions.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. We always appreciate your testimony. The first question is going to come from Representative Ranking Member Mark Anderson.
Katie, thank you. One thing that came out during the info hearing was the idea, it was from Mr. Schubert. He said job fairs weren't productive, nobody showed up. We explored access to the soldiers and airmen during their weekend training. You know, the military department has given initial positive response to that. I don't know what your thought, whether, let's say, employer recruiters came up at the beginning of lunchtime and stayed for a few hours. Would it be a distraction, a big distraction from training? Would it be productive? What are your thoughts?
So currently we do have our recruiting and retention command does a quarterly, what we call a crossroads events. And it's geared towards transitioning guardsmen. But what we do is we open it up for industry and corporate partners to come, and current serving service members are also allowed to attend that event. So we could expand that, we could potentially expand that program. It's just the way corporate partners are currently showing up. It's whoever approaches us or whoever the association meets, we invite them to that event. So we're limited in who comes based off of who we know. So that's where somebody like Department of Labor could help us out and actually provide us with, you know, we could become part of that, their like resource page of who they can send these potential employers to. We also, like Electric Boat, for instance, I know they were here earlier. They do come and speak to our initial entry soldiers during battle handoff. Unfortunately, due to some funding restraints we've gotten recently, our recruit sustaining program doesn't drill as frequently as they used to. And with looking at current environment, I think that potentially coming to a drill weekend would be a training distractor, especially since we're limited in how much training time we already have, unfortunately. So we're trying to find other ways to incorporate these kinds of briefings. It's just we don't have as much time as we would like to have. And a lot of our units don't train in state. They leave for the full weekend to go do training off-site.
Thank you. That's great feedback. And I remember when you had a legislator weekend, that probably a lot of these potential employers had tables there at the Science Center.
Yep, that was that was actually the National Guard Association. We do an annual conference. Our annual conference this year is actually slated for September 17th through the 20th, and we do intend on having a resource day during that time frame to allow corporate partners to come in.
These crossroad events, did you say 4 times a year?
Yes, they're done 4 times a year. We just had our most recent one was February 7th, and they're hosted by our recruiting and retention command.
How do you attract people, and when do you do them? How do you attract them?
So the one in February was done at the Hartford Armory. They do publish a flyer, and like I said, the Guard Association, if we know of corporate partners that are looking to hire veterans or currently serving guardsmen, we put them in touch with our recruiting command, and they get invited to the event that way. And then we publicize the event with flyers through social media.
How is the participation?
I can't say anything about this last event because February 7th happened to be a really bad snowstorm.
Yeah.
So obviously we were limited due to weather, but we have gotten a lot of positive feedback from our transitioning guardsmen and also from currently serving guardsmen that do attend it. They really appreciate being able to talk to the corporate partners, and we even have some state agencies that come. So like Connecticut State Police were there to talk about their hiring events.
That's great. I didn't know about that. Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you very much. We're working really hard to make sure that this is as productive for you all as possible. And so your collaboration as we continue to draft and iterate will be helpful. And I really appreciate you testifying before us today. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Rachel Wash from the Southington Veterans Committee. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, now it is. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Waukee, and I have been the chairwoman of the Town of Southington Veterans Office and Committee for the past 5 years. First and foremost, I want to applaud Chris Pula Sr. and his committee for taking on this monumental task, an idea of providing free dental health care for our Connecticut veterans who may qualify for this benefit. I am so proud of this committee. Also, I too want to acknowledge that 50 Connecticut Army National Guard troops from our very own Southington Armory have recently been deployed to the Middle East. They are, of course, in harm's way, and we pray for their safe return home. This bill, if passed, may help them someday. This raised bill number 5413, if passed, would be an excellent step forward in the well-being of so many of our veterans. We must always bear in mind the proven fact that the whole body includes good oral health. Over the years, I have often heard, when will our government do something to help veterans with their dental care? Well, now is that perfect time to give them the answer that they have been looking for. Please do the right thing. All of our veterans are deserving of the unanimous passage of this proposed bill 5413. Simply put, it is the right thing to do for all of our veterans who gave so much to us and for those who continue that mission. I thank you for allowing me to speak today, and I thank all of you for your commitment to our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Waukee. I appreciate your testimony. I see your Representative Poulos is looking to ask you some questions.
Yes.
Hi. Rachel, thanks for being here today, and more importantly, thank you for your years of service on the Southington Veterans Committee. Obviously, during that time, I was wondering if you would be able to share how, in your role, assisting people, veterans, in accessing benefits has made an impact on their lives. Can you share a story of any particular veteran who you've helped access a medical benefit?
Wow, there's so many that we get that come into our office on a regular basis, and also some that just come in to sit and talk, to listen to them. But there's so many instances. I can't think of one that just jumps out. Well, there was a veteran who was only in his 50s, and he was suffering from MS, and he had heart problems as well. He wound up having a heart transplant. With all of this happening, his house was in real disarray, and there were a lot of safety issues in the home. And so we, as a committee at the town of Southington, we have funds to help these veterans, and we did. We helped in many ways, and they are forever grateful. And that's just one of many stories. Sometimes it's just they don't qualify for some equipment, and we can supply that. Just recently, it was a veteran's wife that called for diapers, adult diapers for their spouse who also has MS. So it goes the gamut.
Have you ever had to sadly deny someone a benefit or tell them the news that they weren't eligible for a benefit through your office or through Veterans Benefits?
So far, we've been doing pretty well. I have not had to deny anyone, thankfully.
Mm-hmm. Even for dental care?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the committee have questions? All right. I believe the next speaker is Larry Ireland.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank the committee members for considering establishing this Veterans Dental Care Access Program. I'm a 23-year veteran, Army veteran, and here in favor of passage of this bill. I'm not here as a member of an organization, although I do belong to several veterans organizations. I'm here as an advocate who shares concern for veterans in need of preventive dental care and medically necessary dental treatment. Veterans today face many roadblocks to receive dental care they need. Today, only approximately 20% or so of veterans enrolled in VA healthcare are eligible to receive VA dental care. To qualify for dental health care, a veteran must be either rated at 100% disability, have a service-connected dental condition, be a former prisoner of war, be recently discharged awaiting one-time dental treatment within 180 days of discharge, or have associated medical condition that's clinically determined to be aggravating a service-connected disability. The remaining 80% of veterans, therefore, must seek other options. A small percentage of veterans who I have met and worked with to seek benefits have dental coverage, which is only $1,000 per year. But most veterans that I have met and worked with do not have any dental coverage at all whatsoever. So the only option is to live a life of no dental care or treatment. Another resource available to low-income veterans in Connecticut, but limited to wartime veterans, is the Soldier Sailor Marine Relief Fund. One of the benefits of the fund is dental assistance to qualifying veterans in the amount of $3,500 per year, but not primarily used for this benefit. But it does have its limitations and roadblocks. What it covers and what it does not cover. Putting the Soldier Sailor and Marine Relief Fund and the proposed bill side by side. The bill provides coverages of services the Soldier Sailor Marine Relief Fund does not cover. Most veterans that I've worked with and work with on a day-to-day basis have no teeth whatsoever. One or two teeth, and they may at this point are decayed and may cause in time additional medical conditions, such as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, respiratory, gastrointestinal issues, or social isolation. It's been my experience being a lifetime resident of Connecticut that we've always taken pride in our veterans. Passage of this bill would be another opportunity for us to say to our veterans that we're going to take care of you because you took care of us. Any questions for me?
Thank you, sir, very much for testifying. It sounds to me like you have identified that there is, in fact, a gap in the dental coverage for constituents in Connecticut that is consistent with what I hear at my Veterans Coffee House, though it seems there's been some mixed feedback on whether or not there is an inadequacy in the current veterans dental coverage in Connecticut. Do you have any idea why that might be, that you are seeing veterans who need more dental coverage, but some folks are testifying that there's not a problem?
Well, even though I'm not here as a member of an organization, I am a member of the American Legion, and I do work their Soldier Sailor Marine Relief Fund for them. And every person has come into my office, I would say at least 90% of them have some sort of dental issue, or they don't have any teeth at all. And how can you live a healthy lifestyle if you can't eat the food that's probably nutritionally good for you, or you're not able to chew properly what you are eating?
You are speaking a dietitian's language. I appreciate that very much. That's my specialty. So I think what I'm hearing you say, and that might have been missed, and I'm glad you're sort of closing out this conversation for us today, is that when you are having conversations specifically with income-constrained veterans, those with the most significantly income constraints who do not otherwise qualify for veteran services, so this sort of dual eligibility being hardship and veterans with disabilities but not completely qualifying, that in serving those specific populations, you are identifying the shortage. And so there may be a great number of veterans throughout the state that are not financial hardship and are not and do not have a barrier to accessing dental care otherwise. But when you're looking at that sort of overlap in the Venn diagram, you are identifying that that is a population. And I do believe our current proposal looks at income eligibility and medical necessity for those services. So I hear that you're saying that this is meeting a need. I think we're going to be working in the weeks that come, hopefully, to get some language that tightens this proposal to make sure it's really clear that this benefit gets to those who need it the most. If you have experience with the Soldiers, Sailors, Marine, I have sort of an persistent sticky wicket in my brain about that fund. Are there things that we can do to ensure that that fund is expended to its annual target goals in a way that would help advance dental coverage? Because that account has, last I checked, about $84 million in it. And they draw down less than $2 million. And if they drew down, my co-chair, who has much better financial skills than me, tells me that they could draw down $3 million a year and still maintain a healthy, robust balance and have the $2 million a year to spend. Is there a way to expand who's eligible for that fund in a way that would be consistent with the mission of that fund and help this population? Is there a way that we can open up the statutory purview of who could benefit from that program so more folks are covered and you can spend more money every year?
Well, one of the obstacles that I have experienced working with the veterans to get them good dental care is that the Soldier Sailor Marine Relief Fund uses Medicaid as a guideline as to what the fund will cover. So that presents two problems in itself. One problem is first of all, there are things that Medicaid just don't cover, okay? And when I looked at the proposed bill, I'm saying, this looks good because this one doesn't cover it, but this one does. Okay, so that works. And the second thing is, probably the bigger of the two problems is that there are not very many dentists out there who are willing to accept Medicaid, and with the condition that you're not going to bill the patient what the other cost, the additional cost may be. I mean, I personally had to run around Southington for several days from dentist to dentist to find someone that would work with us. So it's not, and I make it very clear to them, I don't get anything out of this, but we found this dentist who will work with us within the limitations of the fund.
I will say you did point out something that we heard when we met with the Connecticut Dental Association. They did identify Medicaid reimbursement, sort of the delay in reimbursement and how much work they were having to spend, that there were some dentists choosing to serve Medicaid populations charitably and forgo reimbursement because the headache of reimbursement was so significant as they were navigating those processes. So I think that's something that this committee is not really of our purview, but perhaps we can ask our colleagues in Human Services to investigate.
Well, I know one thing that was brought up by the deputy commissioner, didn't have an answer to it, but when a patient goes to the Soldiers Sailor Marine Relief Fund, and I know that's not the topic with the bill, but they do, when they go for their first visit, they do get a cleaning, they get an exam, and so they are getting that taken care of to identify what's wrong. But again, as I said, what I find is a major obstacle is the fact that the dentists don't want to do the work at the Medicaid rate without having to bill the patient afterwards, the difference.
I have heard that. That's very consistent with my experience. I see Rep. Poulos has a question for you.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for your insight and sharing those anecdotes from your experience working with people in need of dental care. Just in listening to your testimony, I do have one question, and maybe you've experienced this as you've gone to dentists and worked with vets. How might preventative dental care, how might that reduce long-term medical costs, other medical costs not associated with teeth, if this were enacted?
Well, that's a good point, and I think if I had to make an analogy, I would say, if you take your car and you do the oil changes and keep the maintenance up, it's either a pay me now or pay me later situation. Of course, anytime when you're doing preventive care, and I know if these patients or these veterans went to speak to a dentist, they're going to get better educated on how to take care of their teeth. And knowing that, we're getting the preventive care, but I know that there's a responsibility for me afterwards to do the care at home. Does that answer your question?
It does. And I think you're also saying that if people are taking care of their teeth, they may potentially avoid future mental health issues or heart issues and
Absolutely.
other aspects,
I mean,
other medical issues.
It's documented that poor dental hygiene does cause cardiovascular disease, or could be a contributing factor, and especially gastrointestinal issues.
So, yeah, I do, again, thank you for all your work on this endeavor, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other members of the committee with questions? Well, I thank you very much for your time today. With that, I believe that we can adjourn this public hearing, and I want to thank everyone who spent the time with us today and shared their wisdom and their expertise, and thank everyone for continuing to send their prayers and best wishes to our U.S. troops who are deployed. We hope that they all have a safe return home, not just those from Connecticut, but all of them. Thank you.
Thank you.